की जाए जिनके लिए नंबर शायद
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next Performance Management Revision Revolution class. So, today we are going to do a proper specimen paper, which is 100 marker paper, and it is something that is already there on your CBE platform. Okay. So, if you remember on the first day, I did show you 4 mock papers that I want you to do, out of which 2 would be briefly explained in the class of today and tomorrow. Obviously, you need to do the whole calculation part of it. I'm going to guide you of how to do the mock papers. Okay. So that is my agenda for today. Uh, First thing, before we actually start the specimen paper, I want to give you some tips when you actually give your own exam of performance management. Okay. Obviously, there is going to be more strategies and a proper structured, written tips that I want to give to all of you, which will be in tomorrow's last revision revolution class. But today, I want to, give you a little understanding of how to approach a 100 marker paper, right? See, what happens is whenever we start with, or whenever we are in the exam environment and we want to give a 100 marks paper, there is going to be a little pressure because, as I said, and I have, as you must have seen with all your practice since all this year, days and months, that every question has got its own little tricks, right? So it's not like it's not going to be something which you are going to be comfortable with most of the time unless you practice supremely good, right? Besides practicing very good also, when you get the questions, you get little uncomfortable with approaching a 100 marker paper. So the question is how to approach or how to start acting on a paper in your examination. See, the first thing is you need to give 3 mocks or 4 mocks at least in the given time of 3 hours and 15 minutes for your examination. Okay, that will show you how much can you type in that time period, how much can you write, how much can you score in the time that has been given to you, right? Second, find out your comfortable section, right? See, when we are in the skill level, there are chances that this might be your first a different formatted paper, because if you have done BT, MA, FA, or law paper, those were 2 hours paper and completely MCQ papers, right? So the way those papers have to be treated or solved is different than the way you need to solve these papers, right? From this paper onwards, I think your comfort level increases or should be increasing because of 2 reasons. One reason is you will get more time and obviously you're going to advance to your journey of completing ACCA. And second is you will have your section C. Section C or Section B in any other subject, but for performance management, Section C, where you are going to handle typed questions also, right? When you are doing your constructive response question, which is Section C in your performance management paper, you have an opportunity to score marks for every right steps that you have put up, for every theory that you have put up, which is correct, right? MCQs or objective type questions are very good, but the problem with them is either you get your your 0 marks, or you get your 2 marks. There is no in betweens. There is no steps marks that is given for your section A and section B. But section C is the only place where you would be able to give your examination, where you would be writing your answers, you would be typing your answers. There would be marks that are given for your steps, even if your answer becomes wrong, right? So, all those opportunities are something which you get from a mixed kind of paper where you have objective types or MCQs and a constructive response also, right? And obviously, when you go to perform your professional levels, this is going to be 100% constructive response paper pattern, right? So, the first thing that you need to do whenever you're approaching a paper, say mock paper or your final paper, is try to understand which is your core strong section, right? Is it MCQ, which most of the students would be comfortable with, or is it section C, right? Figure that out first. Obviously, today, since I'm going to explain you how to deal with the questions and how to deal with the 100 marker paper, I'm going to go in the chronological order only, like 1, 2, 3, 4 only. But when you are giving your mock, you need to use and figure out your the small details and strategies to understand where you stand and how can you approach your paper, right? So with that, first thing, as I said, you need to figure out which is your stronger section, section A, section B, or section C. You will find it out when you are giving your mock papers, because when you first give your mock paper, you might give it without any intentions. So you would probably start from section A, or if somebody has told you that start from section B or section C, you might do that and see if it works for you, right? Most of the times it does works, good for you. If it doesn't work, then change your strategy, right? It's not always that you have to start from the first question itself. In your CVE platform, I also showed you how can you navigate through the questions, right? So use that and go to questions which you find more comfortable of answering, where you can actually start scoring from and then go forward for it, right? Now, let's start with our questions that we are going to do here, right? So as I said, this is going to be a 100 marks paper. I will try to briefly explain you, show you the strategies of how to approach the questions in the 3 hours time period. And let's see how it goes forward. Right. So read always in performance management paper, read your question carefully. Be it a small question, a 2 marker question, or a 20 marker question. You need to read your question very, very importantly, because there are numbers inside which you need to pay attention to. Sometimes figures are written in alphabetical order also, or in alphabets or in words also. So those also you need to keep a track of. For example, I'm just giving you an example. For example, a question says that 25 rooms in 52 weeks and in 4 quarters. The 4, F4UR, might be written and number 4 might not be written, right? So sometimes those kind of changes do miss out when you are writing a question. So make sure that you are looking at the question very nicely, very minutely, and figuring out what is there to write the answer. Okay. And as I said, performance management, I'm not saying it is tough, but it will require your time. You can't take it easy. In fact, for any ACCA paper, it's a professional paper. If it's a professional course, also, you can't take it lightly. And you should not take it lightly. Let the whole journey count for you, right? So, with that note, let's start with our first question, which is a activity based costing question, right? So when there is activity based costing, what do you figure out? That you need to have a cost driver and a cost pool and directly relate your pool with the driver, right? So you need to directly connect that to that question. Let's first read it. As I said, reading is very important. So let's read the question first. A company manufactures two products, C and D, for which the following information is available. So there is two products here, if you see. Yeah. There are two products here, product C and product D, right? Just a second. Yeah. Hmm. Well, I think my pen tablet has just given up on me, right? I'm just going to take a quick check on it and see if it will start working. Yeah, perfect. Works so far. Let's see how long that goes. Okay, let's read the question. A company manufactures two products, C and D, for which the following information is available. Production, budgeted production, which is 1,000 and 4,000. Labor hours per unit in total, which is 8 and 10. Number of production runs, 13 and 15. Number of inspections during the production, 5 and 3. Right? So the total production setup cost is given, which is 1,40,000. Total inspection 80. Other overheads 96, and other overhead costs are absorbed on labor hour basis. What else? You are supposed to find out your activity based costing on the budgeted overhead cost per unit for product D only. So you need to find it for one product only, right? So this is what you have been given so far. Now, how do you approach this kind of questions? How do you deal with this kind of question? First, what you need to do is you need to figure out your per run, per production, and per labor hour cost, right? And how do you do it? You simply take, for example, see, this is a set, right? And you have you have an inspection, and you have your overhead, right? So you can connect your setup with the production runs, your inspections with the inspections, and it says that overheads are absorbed on labor hour basis. So your this value with this value, right? Now, sometimes in the pressure of examination, students don't end up finding out which activity pool or cost pool goes to which driver, right? It's completely fine. There are certain words that you need to look forward to. For example, here, if you see the word says inspection, the same word is in the pool also, inspection. There is an information given that overhead cost is equal to labor hour basis. So my overhead cost goes to my labor hour, right? And then what you are left with, your production setup, right? And then put it on production run required, right? So it's okay. Sometimes if you don't find it, it's completely fine. You'll figure it out in a minute with the tricks I'm telling you right now. Okay. What do? You find out the per setup cost, per inspection cost, and overhead cost on the labor hour basis. How do you do that? So you take the aggregate amount, which is, for example, if you take the production setup, it's going to be 1,40,000, and then you divide it. The production, if you see, you have done it with your runs, right? So you divide it by 28. That will be your production cost. Then your inspection is 80,000 and you divide it by 8. And the third one is your labor hour basis, which is 96,000. You divide it by your 48,000, right? So with this, you will find out your individual values. I'm just going to write those individual values here. If this is 5,000, this is going to be 10,000, and this is going to be $2, right? Now, what you need to do is you only need to find out the activity-based costing for your product D. So only concentrate on this one product, okay? Don't try to use your time for anything else. Anyways, you have a time crunch here. And now, how do you deal with it? How many setups does this require? So it requires 15 setups. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do 15 into 5,000. Then I'm going to do 3 into 10,000, right? And then I'm going to do my 10 into, sorry, 4,000, right? So how many labor hours you require? Labor hours are per unit. So here is what the catch is. See, this 10 is then multiplied by 4,000. So your 10 is multiplied by 4,000, and then you multiply that by 2. I hope you can see the screen at the end too. Wonderful, yeah. For labor, what did I do? See, this is labor, right? So what for labor, what did I do? I did 4,000. Just read these two sentences carefully. Labor hours per unit, right? And production, budgeted production in unit. So labor hour per unit is 10 and budgeted production is 4,000. So 10 into 4,000 will give me my total labor hours, which is 40,000, right? And then 10 into 4, that is what I do. And then you multiply that by 2 because that is your overhead, which is absorbed on labor hour basis. Once you add all of them, you add these values up, you will get the value for the total amount of the production of D, which comes to 1,85,000, right? And then this 1,85,000, you need to divide it by the number of Ds produced. And how much is that? 4,000. So I'm going to divide that by 4,000, and you will get a value which is 46.25, and that is your answer B, right? So your answer here is B, right? Explaining is little more time consuming, but when you actually do it, and I'm telling you, with practice, you will achieve your answer in your time, right? First, you need to stop panicking and start acting. Obviously, these things I'm going to tell you tomorrow also, but you need to stop panicking and start acting in any question that you understand or any question that you want to approach with or a section that you want to approach with, right? So what we did here is we attached all the activity pools to the drivers and got the per unit price. Then we multiplied it with the total number of units of D that are required for the production, and then you divide it by the number of D units, right? So 15 is the value that you find out because there are 15 setups. You multiply that by 5,000. There are three inspections, multiply that by 10,000. And for labor, this is where the catch is, right? Don't in your exam, don't just take 10 into 2, right? Obviously, those many labor hours would never work, right? So just read your question properly. Labor hours per unit in total and production into units. So 10 into 4,000 into your $2, right? So this is how you calculate your answer, right? With that note, we can go to the next question. I hope you're very well clear on it. Let's go to the next one. Right. The selling price of product X is a set of 550. The selling price of product X is a set of $550 for each unit, and sales for a coming year are expected to be 800 units. So the selling price is given and the number of units are given. A return of 30% on the investment of 500,000 in products X will be required for the coming year. What is your target cost? Right? So your expected profit is given, your product selling price is given, your number of units are given. How do you deal with this? What are you going to do? First of all, find out what is your return on investment. 5 lakhs 30%, which gives you your 1,50,000, right? Then you find out your sales revenue. Your sales revenue is going to be 550 into 800, which comes to your 4,40,000, right? And now what you're going to find out, your total cost, because this is your return on investment that is required. So 4,40,000, which is your sales revenue, minus the investment returns, which will give you a total cost of 2,90,000. And then you find this out, because here if you see, each unit cost is required, right? So this is your total cost. You need to divide it into the number of units. So what will you do? 2,90,000 divide by the number of units. How many number of units they have? 800. So I'm going to divide that by 800 and get my value, which is 362.50, which is your this answer, right? I'm going to repeat this again with you. The question is a simple target cost question. Okay, you have your sales revenue, which you find out from your sales price, and you find out from your number of units sold, right? So this value is something. This value that you find out here and you pick it up from here is something that you're comfortable with. That is this confuses you. Return of 30% on investment. That means something that is your profit, right? Your this value, this you have taken out is your return on investment. In other terms, it is your profit. So if I want to find out what is my cost, I need to deduct the profit from my sales revenue. That is what I have done and found out my total cost to be 2,90,000. Now this value is aggregate for all your 800 units. The question is asking you the cost of each unit. You divide it by 800, you will get your answer, right? Don't get confused with the terms like this. Return of 30%. It simply means profit. Okay, let's go to the next one. This question is a little long, so I'm going to read it out. P company makes two products, P1 and P2. The budgeted details for each product are as follows. So your P1 and P2 are given here. The budgeted production sales, the selling price is given as 10 and 8. Direct material is 3.50 and 4. Direct labor is 1.50 and 1. Let me just check my voice just a second. Variable overheads is zero point 0.6 and zero point 0.4. Fixed overhead is performance management. Perfect. Fixed overhead is 1.2 and 1. And that gives you profit per unit, which is 3.2 and 1.6, right? What you have here, you have your budgeted sales and production for both the products, 10,000 and 12,500 units respectively. The fixed overhead cost included in P1 relates to the apportionment of general overhead cost only. However, P2 also includes specific fixed overheads totaling to $2,500. If only P1 were to be made, how many units would need to be sold in order to achieve a profit of $60,000 each year? Right? So now what you have here is you have to only concentrate on one of your products, right? Like in the last question, you had to concentrate on one of them. Here also, you only got to concentrate on one of your products, which is your P1. And you need to find out how many units of that particular product is to be made. So how do we find that out? Right, so the first that we will do is we're going to find out the number of units that you require to make, right? So if you want to find out the number of units, which is what this question says, right? What will you do? You're going to take your fixed cost, then your target profit, right? You're going to take your fixed cost and your target profit, and then you can divide that by the contribution. Now, contribution has got two formulas. One is sales revenue minus variable cost, or contribution also is fixed cost plus profit. You can find out your contribution the way you want, right? Here, when we talk about the contribution, sorry, when we talk about the fixed cost, let's take the fixed cost first. It is going to be, just a second, let's take this figures out so we have more space. Perfect. Right? So when we figure that out, let's do it. The fixed cost that we require for the product is the fixed cost for P1 is 1.2, and how many products you are making for that? It is 10,000. Plus the fixed cost that you have for your P2 is 1 into 12,500. Right? So that brings your fixed cost, and then obviously you will deduct your specific overhead. Now look at this value. This is something that is a trick here. The fixed cost included in P1 relates to apportionment of general overhead cost, but P2 also includes specific fixed overhead, which is totaling to 2,500. A specific overhead which is only related to the particular situation does not count to be your general or your normal expense. And that is why you have to end up reducing that value. Okay. And with this, you will come to an answer which is 22,000, right? You need to figure out your contribution. I already said your contribution can be your fixed cost plus your variable cost, right? So now what we have got is we have got our fixed cost. We also have our target profit, which is our two, right? This is my one, this is my two, and now I'm finding my contribution. So your my contribution is going to be number three, which is 1.2 into 3.2. So let's put those values together. It is 22,000 plus my 60,000 divided by the contribution, which is 1.2 plus 3.2, which is 4.40, right? And that comes to a value which is 18636 units. Right? It's a simple question. If you see my yesterday's class and day before yesterday's class, I've given you a very good, slow understanding of the Excel, how you will use Excel. Right? So I want you to use Excel formulas and evolve the answers. Okay? Please. Good. Let's go to the next one. Theory. What does the question say? Which of the following statements regarding environmental cost accounting are true? The majority of environmental costs are already captured within a typical organization accounting system, and the difficulty lies in identifying them. Input and output analysis, basically, we just need to find out which one is true and which one is false, right? So I feel that the first one is true. Environmental cost is always there. It's just that the companies don't end up identifying, don't end up finding them very often, right? What's the next one? Input and output analysis divides material flows within an organization into three categories: material, system, and delivery and disposal flow. That is incorrect for sure. One of the cost categories used in environmental activity based costing is environmental driven costs, which are used for costs which can be directly traced to a cost center. That does not happen with environmental cost because you can't have a proper cost pool for that, right? Environmental cost is mostly something which is like a carbon footprint, which does not happen with one process that the company does, right? So this definitely is a wrong point. So whichever option that you see below has got 2 and 3 together, or 2 or 3, would definitely not be the correct answers, right? So whenever you have a theory question, just understand the art of elimination, right? Theory needs to understand the art of elimination. Figure out, don't figure out, don't figure out the correct answer. You need to strike out the wrong answer, right? Don't go behind the right answer in your MCQs of theory. Go for the wrong. Just figure out what is wrong, right? Now, by reading this, I definitely understand that point 3 and point 2 are wrong. So anything that has get 2, so definitely this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is wrong, right? The only option that I have is my B, and hence I'm going to go with that option. I hope you understand this. I'm going to explain this to you again. Whenever you have a theory optional question, look for or use the art of elimination, right? Read through the options given, see which ones are wrong. Don't go for the right answer, go for the wrong answer, which you know, okay, this is definitely not correct, right? So strike those out from your question. And whichever option has got those answers, strike them off also. That will be the first way to approach a theory question. Then look for the options available. Now, here, luckily, what happened, whichever had 2 and 3 were taken out already, right? And we noticed that 1 is definitely correct. That's why the only option that I was left with was B, right? Let's see if we have a question which is more difficult than this, or which is more complicated, and figure out how to solve the answer. On the internet, some of my students, they figured out how to, randomly pick up an answer which was right and wrong, which was some based on some theory given by some of our teenagers or some student. But I have figured out myself that that does not work very well. If you logically go through the art of elimination in your answers, that is where you'll get your theory answers correct. Okay. So that's how you approach your theory question. Let's go to the next one. Well, I think we have there is some error in question number 5, so I'm just going to eliminate this right now. Okay, let's go to the question number 6. Question 5 is probably not picked up correctly. Let me just quickly check a look. Yes. But question 5 is very important. It was a good question. So just give me 1 minute. Let me just quickly get that question out. Just give me 1 minute. I'm going to go on the break screen. Right. Thank you so much for waiting. Let's just quickly go through this question. So, if you notice this question, this is a variance question which says to produce 19 liters of product X, a standard input mix of 8 liters of chemical A and 12 liters of chemical B is required. Chemical A has got a standard cost of 20 per liter. Chemical B had a standard cost of $25 per liter. During September, the actual results showed that 1850 liters of product X were produced using a total input of 900 liters for a chemical of 1100 liters of chemical B. The actual cost of chemicals A and B were at the standard cost of $20 and $25 respectively. Based on the above information, which of the following statements are true? So you need to select any of these. Is that just a second? Yeah. So these are the three options. This is just something that has been picked up from the question directly. So this are the two options that you have. Four options. Both variances are adverse. Both variances are favorable. Total mix variance was adverse. Total mix variance was favorable. Right. So let's look into which one is correct. Now here, this is a variance question which we just did yesterday, so it must be fresh in your mind. What we have done here is we have found out two variances, which is mix and yield. Right. So for a mix variance, obviously they have got two products A and B, and there is AQSM, AQAM, your difference, your cost, and your variance, right? For yield also you have SQSM, AQSM, which you pick up from here, your difference, your cost, and your variance, right? Now, in your question, if you see, you have been given some figures which we directly intend to put here, which is these ones for your AQAM, 900 and 1100, right? So that comes to 2000. This 2000 will be put up here, and then this will be proportionate. So that proportion comes also, yeah, that you have here. For 19 liters, actually the mix, actual quantity into standard mix was 8 and 12 liters, right? So the proportion is 800 and 1200, right? You find out the difference and the cost and you'll get your variance. So difference for this is obviously going to be 100 adverse because your standard is more, and this is going to be 100 favorable coming to a 0. Your cost that is already given in the question is 20 and 25. 20 and 25, you multiply this, you get your values: 2000, 2500. So it is a 500 favorable, right? This same value you need to put up here, which is 800 and 1200 coming to 2000. Now you need to find out your standard quantity into standard margin, right? Now your standard quantity into standard margin is something little tricky. I'll show you why. The production that was required was, if you notice, for 19 liters, right? This year, 19 liters, right? And the actual production came out to be 1850. That is fine. So what has happened here is you for 19 liters, we need to find out how many production units that has to be used. See, to produce 19 liters, 20 liter of raw material has gone, 8 liters of chemical A and 12 liters of chemical B. So for 1850, we need to find out how much your total raw material has gone. That is where your cross multiplication comes into picture, which is for 19 liters and your 20 liters, right? So what you will do is 1850 into 20, and then you will divide that by 19, right? So you'll get your value, which is 1947, right? And then you divide this into pro rata or proportion to give you a value of 779 and 1168, right? And you figure out your difference. Both of them would be adverse because if you see, the standard was less and the actual utilization is more. right? So 21 adverse and 32 adverse. Your cost is 20 and 25. Your variable cost is going to be 420 adverse and 800 adverse, right? So 1220 adverse, right? This question I wanted to show you in particular, a little tricky question than the ones that we have done. Here, the students get caught up in this calculation. Okay, so it's very important that we figure out which ones are a little difficult and come back to them later on. Don't make your brain drainers eat up a lot of your time and doesn't fruitfully take out a 2 marks for it. One more thing, what is the question asking? Favorable and adverse, right? Sometimes what happens, students are little confused on what to do, which one is favorable, which one is adverse. I have shown you if there is a cash inflow or inflow of funds, it is adverse, it is favorable, and if it is outflow, it is adverse, right? So here, if you see, the mix is favorable and the yield is adverse. Mix favorable and yield adverse, which is your last answer. So your correct answer is answer D, right? So this is how you deal with a question which is a little tricky. First, if you find a question tricky, don't waste your time on it. Come back to it later. It's only for 2 marks, right? But what if you miss your other portion, which you could have prospectively got more marks? So be very careful in selecting what you want to start for first or which question you want to spend your time into, right? I was trying to actually put it up onto a new screen, but never mind. Right. Let's go to the next question, which is your question 6. A budget is quantified plan of action for a forthcoming period. Budgets can be prepared using a variety of different approaches. Which of the following statements regarding approaches to budgeting are correct? Incremental budgeting builds previous inefficiency into your budget, whereas zero based budgeting encourages employees to use wasteful expenditure. That is correct, right? Beyond budgeting uses adaptive management process and plans on a rolling basis. If you know beyond budgeting, that is a correct answer too. Activity based costing ensures that the budget is continually updated by no. Activity based costing does not do it. It does not continually updates it. That is what rolling budget does. This one is activity pool and activity driver. So definitely this answer is wrong. Flexible budget recognizes different cost behavior patterns so to take into account the organization's overall strategy during the budgeting process. Well, flexible budgeting is something which is a traditional budgeting method, right? So obviously that is also something which is incorrect. It does not look at the overall budgeting strategy. Beyond budgeting does, but flexible budgeting does not. So I know my 3 and 4 are definitely wrong. Let's see which one has got 3 and 4. Hence, my answer is A. Art of elimination makes things faster in your theory and assures that you are almost accurate in your answer. Let's go to the next one. Hmm. When people see a decision tree, also, people get scared. They would be like, ma'am, it has never been asked in the exam. Why they asked me a decision tree? Well, it's not a tricky question. Just let's go through it and figure out if it is tricky or not, right? A leisure company owns a number of large health and fitness resorts, but one is suffering from declining sales and is predicted to make a loss in the next year. As a result, management have identified a number of possible actions: shut down the resort and sell off the assets, undertake a major upgrade of facilities costing 4.5 million, undertake a minor upgrade of facilities costing $2 million. Upgrades are predicted to have a variable result, and the probability of good results is zero point 0.8. That of a bad result or a minor upgrade, a good result with a minor upgrade is zero point 0.7. So they give you probabilities also. The company is risk neutral and has the following data that they have prepared. I'm just going to make this little smaller so you can see it properly, right? Okay, so they have already made their decisions of what they want to do with it. And what are we supposed to do? Which company should take which decision should the company take? Shut down and sell, undertake the major upgrades, undertake the minor upgrades, undertake the major upgrade if the results are good. So these are certain things that the company needs to figure out, right? Now here, what are you supposed to do? You're finding expected value for majors and expected value for your minor upgrades, right? So how do you find out your EV, your probability into the profit that it is making? So if you see the major upgrades, the probability is this and this, and the probability ratio is of a good result is zero point 0.8. That means a poor result is zero point 0.2. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to say zero point 0.8 into 11 million plus zero point 0.2 into 7.5 million, right? Minor upgrade for a good result value is given 9 million and 6 million. So zero point 0.7 into 9 million plus the difference, which is 1 minus zero point 0.7, is 0.3 into 6 million, right? Once I get my answers, which happens to be 10.3 and 8.1, what I would be doing with this question is I'm going to see what is going to be more beneficial. So one is shutdown, right, which is the company's option that it will shut down the business. If it does that, this is the cost that the company has to bear, which is 5.75 million, right? The next option is your major upgrade, right? Now, if the company is doing a major upgrade, this is the cost that it has to bear, which is 10.3 minus 4.5, which comes to 5.8 million. And the last one is a minor upgrade, which is 8.1 minus the 2 million that is required for your costing. So that comes to 6.1 million. Right now, the company has got all the options that is available for the shutdown, for the major, and for the minor upgrade. Right. So, which this is the most highest value. Let's see what the answer says. We need to take the minor upgrade, which is your answer C, predominantly because that is giving you the maximum profits, right? This is how you deal. It's a very simple EV question. It's just that the decision tree sometimes makes students uncomfortable. Next, just going to eliminate this line so we can see the whole question in one space. Right? Still can't see. Never mind. So what does the question say? The question says that a company has the following production planned for the next 4 weeks. The figures reflect the full capacity level of operations. Planned output is equal to the maximum demand per product. And then you have your four products, the selling price, raw material, direct labor, variable overhead cost, etc. Planned output is given, direct labor hours per unit is given. It has now been identified that labor hours available in the next 4 weeks will be limited to 4,000. So apparently that is your problem. It starts. In what order should the produce be made to assure that you are maximizing the profits? It's just a bottleneck question. Simple, easy peasy. What are we going to do? We are going to find out our contribution first, right? So four products, we need to take all of them because we need to figure out which one is the best, right? So finding out the contribution, I would just take my fixed and add up my profit to it, which is here 60, right? And then it is 21, and then it is 52, and then it is 46. So this is my contribution, right? Now, what else do we need? We require the number of labor units because this is your bottleneck, right? So labor units, labor, I'm just going to say 6 and 8 and 3 and 2, right? So contribution per labor would be 46 divided by 6. So 46 divided by 6 comes to 7.67. 52 divided by 8 comes to 6.5. 21 by 3 comes to 7, and 6 by 60 by 2 comes to 30. Now I'm going to rank them, right? So which one is giving me the highest contribution is this fellow, and then this fellow, and then this and this. So it is going to be D, A, C, B. Do I have D, A, C, B here? Let's figure out, right? So we have answer A, which is your DACB. So we will go with answer A, right? Simple contribution, simple question. Let's go to the next one. I really hope you get questions like this in your exam. Right. Question 9. Diff company provides accounting service to government departments. On average, each staff member works 6 chargeable hours per day. See, look at this. This is what I was talking about. Sometimes your values are given in your word format, so you don't figure them out. You might overlook them. So look at them carefully. The rest of their working day being spent on non-chargeable administrative work. One of the company's main objective is to produce a high level of quality and customer satisfaction. Def company has got a target, which is cutting departmental expenditure by 5%, increasing a number of chargeable hours handled by advisors to 6.2 per day, obtaining a score of 4.7 or above on customer satisfaction survey. Now, here, what you need to do is which of the following option allocates the above targets to correct value the money, the value for money, like economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. So basically, this is not a calculative question. All you need to do here is you need to use your theory knowledge. Let's see which one is which. Cutting departmental expenditure, clearly a economical move, right? So I know that this is economical, out of the three E's of your value for money, this is definitely either A or it is going to be B, D, right? A or D. Now let's see if E is 3 and effectiveness is 2, or E efficiency is 2 and effectiveness is 3. Increasing the number of chargeable hours handled by advisor to 2.6 and obtaining a score of 4.7 or above on customer satisfaction. So obviously it is this because it is looking at the efficiency and effectiveness. So definitely this E is about the efficiency and this is about effectiveness, right? And obviously this is your economy. What did I do in this question? I looked for a comfortable value that I think would be handling or enabling me to score. And I picked up that and used it, right? Let's move on to the next question. Again, a theory. Different types of information systems provide the information which organizational control needs the strategic planning. So you need to find out which is MIS, which is TPS, EIS, and ERPS. Right now, for this question, management information system summarizes the internal data for your periodic report, right? Which is correct. Yes, it is correct. It gives you internal data. Transaction processing system facilitates the immediate processing of data. That is also correct. Effective information system, executive information system utilizes dashboard facilities and interactive graphics. Yes, that is true. We have seen it in the theory if you've gone through the theory. And the last one is enterprise resource planning can be set with an extranet link to suppliers and customers. So all the statements that are put up here are true. We will go with D, right? So everything is true. Superb. Let's go to the next one. Which of the following, sorry, was it this one? Yeah. The following, the following are all types of cost associated with management information, use of barcoding and scanners. Just a second. Paper. Okay. Now here, what you need to do is which of the sorry, was it this one? The following are all types of cost associated with the management information, use of barcoding and scanners, payroll department's processing of personal cost, completion of timesheets of employees, input of data into the production system, right? The following are all types of costs associated with management information. From the above example of data direct capture, which of the above example are data direct capture costs? So from where you can directly pick up the data, right? Now, obviously, we know and we are comfortable with barcodes, right? Barcodes, correct? What else? Payroll department does not give you data. Completion of time sheets of employees, no. Input data into the production system. Obviously, this is not the answer. This is not the answer. So wherever there is 2 and 3, which is here, here, and here, it is not the answer. What am I left with? D, art of elimination. Take it and go forward with it, right? Next question. Which of the following statements regarding life cycle are correct? Right? So, what do you think, according to you, life cycle costing is correct? It can be applied not only to products but also to an organization or to an organization's customers. It includes an opportunity cost associated with production. The maturity phase is characterized by a rapid built up in demand, which I don't know, which always does not happen. And offered between 70 to 90% of costs are determined early in the product life cycle. This is very true. I know this is true, right? So let's see where 3 is, and that will be eliminated. This definitely is eliminated. This definitely is eliminated. Now I've got two options, 1 and 4 and 2 and 4. Let's see 2 is correct or not. It includes an opportunity cost associated with the production. That is also very true because your cost of leaving that particular life cycle is also included in that particular life cycle costing method. Hence, your answer is A, right? So, your question 12, life cycle costing, your answer ends up to be A, right? And opportunity cost is something actually which you really doubt. So, actually, opportunity cost should not be added, it should be just the first one and the last one. So, I think it's C, not A. Let's stick to C in this answer. The answer will be C, right? Let's go to the next one, which is the question number 13. Again, a calculative question. A company manufactures a product which requires 4 hours per unit of machine time. The machine time is a bottleneck resource as there are only 10 machines which are available. Now, see, 10 machines. This 10 sometimes can be overlooked. Machine is a bottleneck. 10 machines are available which work 12 hours per day and see 5 days a week. The product has selling price of 130 per unit, direct material cost of 50, labor cost 40, and factory overhead is 20. You need to find out your TPAR. Right now, when you have to find out your TPR, first you have to do is you need to know your formula very correctly. So let's find out. It is return per factory hour, right? Divided by your return per factory hour is divided by your factory cost per hour. Your return per factory hour is going to be where are your values? Yeah, 130 because it is just the factory hour. So you're just going to take the 130 and deduct your direct material cost from it, right? So 130 minus 50 and divided by the number of hours that are required, which is given in the question, and that is the product has got 130, factory hours are 20. These costs are based on weekly production, and you require 4 hours of your machine time. So 4 hours is going to find you this, which is your say 0.1. And for your two, it is going to be 20, which is your labor cost and your overhead cost. 20 plus 40, and then you divide it by your 4 hours, right? So here you'll get a value of $20, your $15. TPAR is going to be your $20 divided by $15, making it to 1.33. You have that in your question. Answer is A. What happens is you need to know for TPAR to do correctly, you need to know the TPAR formula. You have return per factory hour and you have your factory cost per hour. Return per factory hour is your selling price minus your direct material. Factory cost is labor plus your overhead cost. Both of them would be divided with the bottleneck, which is 4 hours in this case. And then you find your value with return divided by factory cost, right? Only the formula is required. If you know the formula correctly, this question wouldn't be a problem for you. Let's look at the next question. Ox Company has two divisions, A and B. Division A makes a component of air conditioning units, which it only sells to Division B. It has no other outlet for sale. So that means this is a question of transfer pricing. Marginal cost is $100, transfer price is 165, and your total sales are 2,200 units. Specific fixed cost for division A per year are $10,000, right? So let's see how can we improve this. Coal company has offered to sell the component to division B for 140 per unit. If division B accepts this offer, division A will be closed. That means they don't need to look for further anyone to buy those things from them, right? So this is where you're going to find out your variable cost increase, which is going to be 140 minus 100. So there is an increase by $40 in the variable cost if you ending up selling it internally only, right? Uh, so the total increase is going to be $40 into how many units? 2,200, which brings out to be 88,000. Post that, if the company is thinking of shutting down, right? If they are shutting down, there's a specific cost of 10,000. So a shutdown cost gives you a 78,000, right? And this is a decrease in the profit. So which is your B. See, here we need to understand that there are only one values which 78,000. So, directly select this. Sometimes The question confuses you with decrease and increase. So there is a 78,000 increase, there is a 78,000 decrease. You need to then figure out it is reducing your profit or increasing your profit, right? So select your answer accordingly, right? Let's go to the next one. Which of the following statements regarding, this is a direct question on a theory, right? Which of the following statements regarding Fizzleland and Moon's building block models are correct? The determinants of the performance are quality, innovation, resource utilization, and competitiveness. Standards are targets for performance and should be fair, achievable, and controllable. This is something which is definitely not what the building block model says, so surely it's not true. Rewards encourage staff to work forward. That is completely true. And it is a performance measurement framework particularly suitable for service organization. Yeah, that is also true in more sense that the building block model is focusing on your service organization. So these two are your correct answers. And let's see where three and four are there. So three and four both are only in one, which is your answer C, right? So here also what we did is we found out what we know or we don't know or what we surely think is wrong and right, and then go forward with approaching the answer, right? So this is how you finish your first section. Let's move to the next section. Your next section is where you are going to be having uh, a situation where you are going to have one case study, and on that case study you are going to have five questions related to it, right? So let's figure out how to deal with those questions. uh, right, so there is one scenario I normally recommend students to read it once but nicely, to assure that you don't have to go back and forth to it, at least not to see what the situation is. The numbers obviously you need to go and tally them. So this question particularly is relating to 16 to 20. Question number 16 to 20. Glam Company is a hairdressing salon which provides both cuts and treatments to clients. All cuts and treatments at the salon are carried out by one of the salon's three senior stylists. The salon also has two salon assistants and two junior stylists. Every customer attending the salon is first seen by a salon assistant who washes her hair, next by a senior stylist who cuts or treats their hair depending on which service the customer wants, and then finally a junior stylist who dries their hair. The average length of time spent with each member of the staff is as follows. So there is this cut and treatment. Cut hours and treatment hours. So assistant cut hours and treatment hours are zero point 0.1 and zero point 0.3. Senior stylist 1 and 1.5, and junior stylist zero point 0.6 and zero point 0.5. A salon is open for 8 hours each day for 6 days. Now look at this. Look at the numbers here, right? I did say they do come in words, which makes it little difficult for students. Not difficult, I would say, but students can end up overlooking them. 8 hours for 6 days a week. They only close for 2 weeks a year. So if a year has got 52 weeks, which is a normal standard, 2 weeks the salon is closed. Staff salaries are given, which is 40,000 for senior, 28,000 for junior, 12,000 for your assistant. The cost of cleaning products applied when washing their hair is 1.50 per client. The cost of all additional products applied during a treatment is 7.4 per client. Other salon costs amount to 1,06,400 each year. Glam Company charges $60 for each cut and 110 for each treatment. The senior stylist has been correctly identified as a bottleneck activity. So your senior stylist who is earning a 40,000 is your bottleneck, right? You need to find out what is the capacity of your cuts and treatments, right? So the cost of cleaning is given, the cost of additional products is given. Right, we have got everything. you need to figure out your senior stylist, how much can that person do. So that person can do one haircut in 1 hour and 1.5 in another. And they are the ones who are in a bottleneck here, right? So let's find out the annual capacity. How do we do that? We are going to find out how many hours the company works. So the salon hours will be 8 hours into 6 days into 50 weeks, because 2 weeks they have got a holiday. 2400, right? And then there are three senior stylists, right? I'm just going to highlight that for you. See, three senior stylists. Let me just, I've already mentioned it earlier, but three senior stylists, right? So what are we going to do? The number of stylist hours that we have, senior, 2400 hours into three senior stylists, that comes to 7200 hours, right? Now, how many activities the senior stylist can do? One cut and 1.5 hours he takes to do the treatment, right? So if we are looking at hours of cuts, it will be 72,000 hours into time taken for one, and treatment 7,000, sorry, not 72,000, but 7,200 hours. And time taken for one treatment is 1.5. So just figure out these values and you will get your answer, right? I'm just going to go here. There is only one that signifies a cut with 7,200 hours, which is your answer D, and hence, sorry, answer C, and hence C is your answer. So we're just going logically. In fact, we don't even need to find out the values once we do like those two simple calculations, right? What else do we have? We have a TPER question. Let me just go through that. The salon has got a cost per hour, which is 42.56. We need to find out the TPAR for cuts and for treatments. So we need to find out our return per factory hour and the cost also. That's the factory cost also. Let's focus on those first and get those values corrected here. So first, my return per factory hour is going to be how much, that is your charging for cuts is 60, right? So I'm going to take 60 minus my direct material cost. The material is only the this 1.5 for washing the hair, right? For haircut. So I'm just going to take that. That is my return per hour. And my factory cost is going to be direct material and labor, right? So which is already given in the question, which is 42.56, right? So I just needed to find out my return per factory hour, which is 58.5 TPAR. Here, if you see, the saloon has calculated the cost per hour. My factory cost per hour is calculated. You don't need to spend time on that. Don't need to look for that in the question also, right? Simple TPR, what will do? 58.5 divided by 42.56. It gives you a value which you require for your cuts, right? So that is 1.37, right? Now let's see if we have any other 1.37. Wow. Here we do have two 1.37s, right? So we need to find out the next value also, which is for our treatment, right? So treatment also, we have the factory cost. We just need to find out the return per factory hour, which is, let's see how much they're charging for the factory hour treatments. Okay. The treatment is 110. The cost of the product that is applied is 7.10, and which is an additional cost apart from the hair washing. So 1.5 plus 7.4, that gives you a 8.9, right? So that 8.9 has to be deducted from your 110, and then you will get your return per factory hour. Return per factory hour is going to be 110 minus 7.4 plus 1.5, right? So that is going to be 110 minus 8.9, coming out to 67.40, because we need to divide this value with the number of hours for cuts, right? Which is 1. Here we did not do it because it was only with 1 hour. It's the same thing. Here it's with 1.5. So we find out this value. And then finally, what you do is you do 67.40 divide by 42.56. So that comes out to 1.58. Now let's find out if we have that value. Yeah. So your answer is A. Correct? TPAR, if you notice, there were two questions that were asked here, and one more theory also that is coming over. Let's go to the next one, question number 18. Which of the following activities could the salon use to improve the TPAR? Apply an increase to the selling price of the services, identify ways to reduce the material cost of the service, increase the level of inventory to prevent stockouts, increase the productivity of the stage prior to the bottleneck, improve the control of the salon's operating expense, increase the time spent by the bottleneck activity on each services, right? So we need to figure out which is your right answer. Apply an increase in the selling price. This will increase the TPR throughput. Yes. Identify ways to reduce the material cost. Yeah, if you increase your revenue and decrease your cost, they are two different things working towards the same direction. Level of inventory would not help because that will again increase a lot of stock holding or costing. Increase in the productivity of the stage prior to bottleneck. I don't think that also plays a role. Improve the control of the salon's operating expenses. Yes. Increase the time spent by the bottleneck on each. That is definitely wrong, right? So if I want to see D and A are definitely wrong, then you're always stuck between these two. But there are certain things which shows that TPAR can increase. Now, throughput is basically how you can increase the overall profit of the company. That can either be by increasing the revenue, reducing the cost, or reducing the expenses. So obviously it is going to be your answer B, which is 1, 2, and 5. Let's go to the next theory question. What would be the effect on the bottleneck if the salon employed another senior stylist? Senior stylist was the bottleneck, right? So if the salon ends up bringing another senior stylist, how can that improve the bottleneck? It focuses on, sorry, the senior stylist will be a bottleneck for cuts only. The senior stylist time will be a bottleneck for treatments only. Senior stylist time will remain for the bottleneck of cuts and treatments, and there will be no longer a bottleneck. Right now, here, unless you calculate and figure out how much extra hours you will receive, it is impossible to find out which answer is correct. So even if it looks prima facie like a theory question, it would not be, and you need to still figure out if the bottleneck is eliminated or not, right? So let's do that. Here, the capacity which the company directly right now has, I'm just going to show that to you again. So when we talk about 8 hours and 6 days and all, the total capacity that the company has for a senior stylist is somewhere around 2400 hours. And if there are two senior stylists that are involved, then you will have 2400 into obviously two, right? Just let me just go back to that question. We know the time taken also. So let's find out first what is the senior stylist bottleneck and the number of senior stylists that we have or require. So the existing capacity right now that we have is 2400, right? And that too with two senior stylists. If they are double, what will be the situation? Right? So let's go and see the cuts and treatments. So basically, if you see, this question is like a process, no? Everything needs to be going through from one person to another to the third person. Just give me 1 minute. Let me just quickly grab my water. Right. So for this question, we need to first figure out where was I? Yeah. For this question, first, we need to figure out what is the existing amount of treatments and cuts that all three of them can do right now, right? So when we saw earlier, we saw that 2400 hours are available. There are three senior and two junior and two assistants, right? So let's take those values here in terms of cuts and treatments, right? So cuts and treatments that the company has right now is, as I said, 2400, which makes it to a 48,000 by an assistant. This is the first person who washes the hair, right? And then there's a senior who is styling it. and then there is a junior who is blow drying it, right? So 48,000 of that treatments would require 16,000 hours. Your senior would take like 1 hour, right? So, and you have got three seniors. So 2,400 into three, which is 7,200. Your treatments would be 4,800. How? Because it is 2,400 hours into three stylists divided by 1.5. The same logic I used for them and for the others also, right? And the junior, according to the time taken, it's 8,000 and 9,600. Now, if one more of this person is added, that means the total amount of hours that we have comes from, total amount of hours is increased by 2,400. That becomes a 9,600, which we have, right? So, with that, how many cuts can a senior stylist do? Senior stylist cuts bottleneck is completely removed because when this value comes to 9,600, that means efficiently the company can do 8,000 cuts because that is the threshold for assistant and a junior. Now, when you have 9,600 here and you divide it by 1.5, that is where you are going to increase the amount of cuts that can be done, right? So, if we talk about the cuts, the treatments, it is 6,400, right? So, then again, the bottleneck still remains, but it remains for the treatments only. Because for cut, they have fully utilized, but for treatments, still they can only do 6,400. So your treatment for senior is still remaining, right? So do we have an option like that? Yeah. In this question, what did we do is we first found out the cuts and treatments which the existing assistant, senior, and junior stylists do. After that, we added one more senior stylist and figure out if it's still a bottleneck or not. For cuts, it is not because if you see, this will increase to 9,600, which can make it equal. But for treatments, that still remains because the capacity of assistant and junior is very much high, right? So if this bottleneck needs to be removed, maybe they should have one more assistant and one more senior, and maybe have like five senior stylists. Let's go to the next one. Theory. Which of the following statements regarding the theory of constraints are correct? If you know theory of constraints, you would be able to answer it good. The question says it focuses on identifying stages of congestion in a process when production arrives more quickly than the next stage can handle. It is based on the concept that organizations manage three key factors: throughput, operating, and inventory. It uses a sequence of focusing steps to overcome a single bottleneck, at which point the improvement process is complete, and it can be applied to the management of a limiting factor, both internal and external, which can affect an organization, right? So these are the four options for a theory of constraint. As I said, to know this answer properly, you should know theory of constraint nicely, right? So obviously it is going to be one and two because theory of constraint identifies the processes and then works on the next stage to handle it based on the concept of the organization manages three key factors. So your A is obviously your correct answer, right? Focusing on steps to overcome a single bottleneck at which improvement process is complete, but then it keeps on, if you remember TOC, the stages keeps on revolving and finding out the new bottleneck also, right? Which this statement makes wrong. It can be applied to management of all limiting factors, both internal and external. That is completely wrong also because obviously it is not applied. That means definitely you can eliminate C and D first. And obviously, because it is in a loop, whenever a bottleneck is achieved, companies' theory of constraint basically tells you to go back and figure out the next bottleneck. So even your three becomes incorrect. Your correct answer is A and B, one and two, which is answer A. On this note, I'm going to take a quick 10 minutes break and I will see you at 10:40. Hi all. So let's start with the next question. Let me just check my voice. It's correct. Hi all. So let's Perfect. Right. Let's go to the next one. This is a completely different question, so that's why I took a break before that. Hmm. Chair Company has a development in several new products. One of them is a new type of luxury car seats. The estimated labor time for the first unit is 12 hours, but a learning curve of 75% is expected to apply for the first 8 units produced. Um, the cost of labor is $15 per hour. The cost of material and everything is given. So if you see what this is a question of learning curve where students get a little trouble of how to find out these units. I want to show this to you on a proper Excel sheet. So let me just quickly open an Excel sheet because Excel or a spreadsheet or whatever you call it. Okay, because this kind of questions is where students you all get a little problem in terms of finding out the exponential value and actually how to use the same formula on the Excel sheet. That is a little trick here, right? So I want to do the first one. Let's read the question once again. You need to find out the cost of the eighth labor. Now, when we talk about the formula that you require for this, it's pretty simple and it is given in the, it is given in the formula sheet also, which is y is equal to a into x raised to b, right? Where you, in this question, you have to find out the eighth unit, right? For finding out the eighth unit, you need to find out the y or the learning curve of 8 units, of 7 units, and then deduct this value to get the eighth unit, right? So you need to use the learning curve formula for two, quantity of units, 8 and 7. And when you deduct from 8 units, 7 units, you'll get the eighth unit's learning curve, which is obviously the labor cost, right? So this is how you approach it. We have got many values which are already given. And actually, a learning curve question is simple because here the trick is only to use the correct formula in the correct format. But overall, the question does not happen to be a very difficult one. So finding out the 8 ones, if you see 12 hours are taken, right? So 12 hours into our 8 units raised to b, right? Now what is b here? B is log r divided by log 2. R is your learning curve, which is 75%, right? So your total formula looks like 12 into 8 raised to log 0.75 divided by log 2, and this is how you will find out your labor cost. Right now on numbers this looks simple, but when we are doing it on the Excel, you don't understand these values very correctly and you don't understand how to use the raise to very correctly, right? So my challenge is to just to show you that properly. You have seen the formula. Here I'm going to only describe the way that it is done, right? So let's use our normal sheet. For 8 units, we are finding out, right? So for 8 units, the formula, as I showed you earlier, is y is equal to a into x raised to b. First question or first challenge is to find out your b, which is equal to log r divided by log 2, where r is your percentage of learning, right? So how do you find this value? It is going to be is equal to, we have a log formula already available on the spreadsheet. It will be there on your Excel also. You just need to use that. Open your bracket. It is 75%. So what do? You do 0.75, right? Close the bracket. Again, use a division sign. You use your log again. Open a bracket. Number two, close your bracket. Press your enter. The first challenge is to find out log on a spreadsheet. Very simple. You have the log formula. I'm just going to do that again, but I'm not going to do it with equal to, otherwise the direct answer will come. So I'm just going to do it like that. You need to write log, open up a bracket. If it's 70, 80, whatever percent it is. In our question, it is 75%, right? So I'm going to take 0.75 divided with log again and 2. Right? If you put equal to in front of this answer of B will come, this one. Right? Now, the second challenge is y is equal to a, y is equal to x, sorry, ax raised to b. Now, in your questions, you have raised to b. We use exponential value. Exponential. There is a symbol called exponential, which is like a small v that you can see. So I'm using an iOS here. So it is shift and number 6, numerical number 6. If you press that, your exponential, this little thing here will come. Okay. So let's take that and use the same formula values, which is equal to, now here I have got my A, B, everything, right? So my A and B is something that I have. Sorry, A, B, and X, all of them I've got, right? So 12 into, open up a bracket, use your units that you want to find out, use the exponential that you want to find out, and then minus 0.415, right? Close your bracket, press your enter. This is per unit for 8 units. So if I want to find out the total for 8 units, what I'll do is total for 8 units is going to be is equal to 8 multiplied by 5.062, right? It will give me the total value, which comes to 40 point, say 50, right? Now the same logic I'm going to use for 7 units also. See, notice I'm going to take more time to do this because I want you to get it correct, right? So here we are going to it for 7 units. So 12 multiplied by, open your bracket, 7 with your exponential and minus 0.415, close your bracket and press your enter, right? This is, and this for the 7 units, I want to find out total for 7 units, which is going to be is equal to 7 multiplied by 5.35, 37.45. Now I want to find out for the 8th unit, right? So which is equal to your 8 units minus your 7 units, which comes to 3.046, right? Let's see if we have that answer. We have D, which is 3.04. So that happens to be our correct answer. See, if you get a learning curve question, where you have to find out the R or where you have to find out the labor cost with the learning curve, I'm telling you, it's very easy. Once you ace the formulas that you need to use, just do that. Also, if you remember, for every other Excel formula, I normally, tell you to use the cell referencing, but particularly for this, don't use cell referencing. It might give you a little confusion, so try to use absolute values. As you notice, I found out the B, but when I found out my exponential value, when I found out my learning curve here, I manually typed in the value, which is minus 0.415. The same thing I did to find out the 8th unit also. I manually typed thing because you don't want to get into the mistakes of this value, right? As simple as that. Hmm? Okay, easy that was. Once, as I said, if you understand the once you understand the Excel calculation of logs and exponentials, it becomes very easy. I'm going to show you one more also right now, which is the raise to value and how to take it on the other side. Exponential taken on the other side, right? Just a second, let me just scroll down. The first phase of the production has now been completed for the new car seat. The first unit actually took 12.5 hours to make, and the total time for the first 8 units was 34.3 hours, at which point the learning effect came to an end. Chair company are planning on adjusting the price of the effect of actual time it took to complete the 8th unit. What was the actual rate of learning and which occurred? So that means here you need to find out your R. Let's do that. Right? So here, if you see, we have got certain things. Where's my pen? Yeah, right. So here, if you see, we have got our learning rate curve, right? So learning rate, cumulative total, and cumulative average, right? So if you see, it has doubled. So 1, 2, 4, 8. 1 plus 1, 2, 2 plus 2, 4, 4 plus 4, 8. The cumulative time for the first product was 12.5, and that for the 8 products is 34.3. Average time that is taken for one would be 12.5, and then 12.5 into R, 12.5 into R raised to 2, 12.5 into R raised to 3. Right? What do we need to find out here? We need to find out the actual learning rate, such a tongue twister, right? And that is what we would intend to do here for 8 number of units. So it is going to be 34.3 is equal to 8 into 12.5 into R raised to 3. Right? Now we very well know how to deal with this value. So what on a normal calculation basis you would be doing is you would be taking, you know, 34.3, and then you divide 8 by it and you get your 12.5 into R3, and then you get a value which is your 0.343 for R3, right? Up till this value you all would be very comfortable. After that is where the struggle starts, how to deal with this exponential when it shifts to the another place, right? So how do you normally deal with the exponential when it shifts to another place? I'll show you. 0.343, right? And R3. You can get value up till here in your answer. On your Excel, how do you handle this is, now when this exponential 3 goes on the other side, it becomes 1/3, right? So your formula has to be 0.4343 exponential, and then you put 1/3, you will get your R value, right? Which will come in decimals, which is 0.70 is equal to R is what it will come. And that is where you will be coming to a 70%. You have that in your question and you mark it, right? For this kind of questions, it's very simple. Just the formula has to be correct and your calculation strategy has to be correct, and you are sorted with it. Let's go to the next one. Another product which Chair Company has developed is a new design of high chair for feeding young children. Based on previous experience of producing similar products, Chair Company has assumed that a learning rate of 85% would apply to the manufacture of this new design. But after the first phase of production have been completed, management realized that a learning rate of 80% have been achieved. Now, which of the following statements could explain why the actual rate of learning rate which was expected has been achieved or not? Right? So here they have expected it to be 80%, they have achieved it in 70%. That means the company's employees took less time to understand the situation or to understand it better. Staff levels stable during post manufacturing phase. Yes, that is true. When you have stable staff, they learn faster. There were machine breakdowns during production. If that would happen, the learning curve would take longer. So that is incorrect. Assembly of the chair was manual and very repetitive. That is where people learn faster. That is correct. High staff turnover, if that would have happened, the learning rate would have increased. There was a minimum stoppage of the production. That is also something which is correct. The design of the chair was changed several times. That was incorrect, right? So basically, how do you earn a lesser learning rate? You only earn it when your efficiency, your staff, and everything is working positively towards the direction, right? So here also is the same situation, and you're working towards the direction. That's why it is your answer 1, 3, and 5, which is your answer B. Correct? Let's go to the next question. A company uses cost plus pricing, right? So, which of the following statements regarding cost plus pricing strategies are correct? Marginal cost plus pricing is easier where there is a readily identifiable variable cost. Full cost plus pricing requires the budgeted level of output to be determined at the outset. Cost plus pricing is a strategically focused approach as it accounts for external factors. Cost plus pricing requires that the profit markup applied by an organization is fixed. So, according to you, which are your correct answers? Right? Marginal cost is a correct answer. Full cost is also a correct answer. Cost plus pricing focuses on external factors that would not be possible. Cost plus pricing requires a profit markup applied on for organization is fixed. That is also incorrect. So you have to go with answer B. Let's move on to the next one, which is your question number 25. Chair company has developed a new type of office chair and management is trying to formulate a budget for this product. They have decided to match the production level to demand. However, demand for this chair is uncertain and management have collected the following information. Worst possible outcomes and best possible outcomes have been given to you with a probability. Use probabilistic budgeting. What is the expected budgeted contribution of the product? So it is super simple. You need to use the probability with the units, multiply it with the selling price, and you will get the answer. I'll just show you how to do it, and you can do it, which is where you need to find out, or you need to put your units. There are three products, right? Sorry, three situations. So units, and then you have contribution. So your total contribution, and then you have probability, and yeah, then you have expected budget, right? So the units that they have is 10,000, 22,000, and 35. Let's put those values here. Contribution selling price is 25 and variable cost is 8. So the contribution is 17 for the first one. Second one also it will be 17 because it says up to the production level of 25,000 units, the contribution remains same. So if this is 22,000 units, the contribution will remain same. Then after the production is increasing, when the production is increasing, it says that the variable cost will decrease by 10%. So right now, if the variable cost is 8, it will be decreasing by 10%. So your new variable cost would be 7.2. Hence, the contribution would also change from 25 minus 7.2. That is, it will become 17.8. So I'm taking the new contribution. Then you do, like if this is 1 and if this is 2, you will do 1 into 2 over here, right? And your value comes to 1,70,000 and your 3,74,000 and 6,23,000. The probability is also given, which is zero point 0.3, zero point 0.5, and zero point 0.2. Now you have to multiply your number 3 with number 4, right? So 3 into 4 is what you will get as your value as 5, which comes to 51,000, 1,87,000, 1,246,000. Add them up together, which comes to 362,600. You have that value here as your answer D. Bob's your uncle. Very simple question. You just need to make sure that you get this value correct. If you don't get this value correct, you'll not get a right answer. You will lose your 2 marks just like that. Let's go into the next question, which is the last scenario based question here. High Life Company. So High Life Company makes sofa and it has recently requested customers to provide a one-off order for sofa in excess of normal budgeted production. The order would need to be completed within 2 weeks, and the following cost estimated has already been prepared. So what have we got here? We have got our direct material, fabric and wood, and then we have direct labor, which is skilled, semi-skilled. Then we have factory overheads, general fixed overhead, which is 10% of the cost, and you get your total cost. What do we have to do here based on the quotations? So let me just make some space here. The quotation now needs to be prepared on relevant cost basis so that HL company can offer as competitive a price as possible for the order. Right? The first question is 26 marker. Sorry, the first is question number 26. Where am I going? Right? The fabric is regularly used by HL company. There are currently 300 square meter in inventory, which costs $17 per square meter. The current purchase price of the fabric is 17.5. Wood is regularly used by HL and usually costs 8.2. However, the company's current supplier's earliest delivery time for the wood is in 3 weeks' time. So they don't have wood directly right now. But an alternative supplier could deliver immediately but would charge 8.50. HL already has 500 meters in inventory, but 480 is needed to complete the existing order and the next in the next 2 weeks. The remaining 20 meters is not going to be needed. So what we can do is we can pull up this 20 meters of wood from here and buy the other ones from the supplier. And for fabric, there are currently 300 meters of fabric. How much fabric do we need? They would need 500 inventory meters for it, la la la. Okay, and this is what the fabric that they require, right? The fabric is 200 and the wood that is required is 20 meters, right? So whatever we have in house, we'll be using from there. What we don't have, we would be taking it from outside. That is how we will find out the value of, just a second, I'll just take it to the question. The cost of fabric and wood, which they need to add into the quotation, right? So when it comes to fabric, we will only take for fabric. Normally, students take the cost that is given, which is $17, but we will take the fabric at a relevant cost, which is 17.5. So how much fabric is required? 200 meters of fabric, 200 square meters of fabric at 17.5. That comes to 3,500, right? We have two answers which has got 3,500, A and C. Let's go to the next one, which is wood. So company already has in-house wood. They have to buy more wood from outside. Um, the cost of the in-house wood is 8.20, right? And even if they would have bought it from a regular supplier, it would have cost them 8.20. But For emergency, they have to get it at 8.50. So wood is then bifurcated into two, which is 20 meters at 8.20 and 30 meters at 8.50, making that up to 419. So your answer is A, 419. Here the catch is with the relevant cost. Don't use the normal cost at $17. Your answer will be incorrect. The skilled labor force is employed under permanent contract of employment under which they must be paid for 40 hours per week, even if their time is idle due to the absence of orders. The rate of pay is 16, though any overtime paid at the time and half. In the next 2 weeks, there is a spare capacity of 150 laborers. There is no spare capacity of semi-skilled workers. They are currently paid at 12, and obviously, if they are paid at time and half. They are currently paid at 12 and then paid time and half. However, a local agency can provide additional semi-skilled workers for $14 per hour. What cost should be included in the quotation for skilled labor and semi-skilled labor? We need to figure that out. Before that, let's figure out how much is the labor that we have that we require. So 200 of skilled and 300 of semi-skilled. How much do we have? Spare capacity 150 for your skilled, and there is no spare for semi-skilled. So semi-skilled completely we need to get from outside, and skilled 150 of these hours we can use. The remaining we need to buy from outside. If these people are going to do it, they will take time and half, right? So 16 is what they are paid. Time and half would be 16 plus 8, which is 24, right? So it's better to get those people from an agency at $14, right? So let's work on this question also. The simple question this is skilled and semi-skilled. Let's do the skilled part first, right? So when we talk about the skilled labor, it is going to be 16 at time and half because skilled laborers are not available for the agency. So 50 hours at 24, we got to pay them 1200. For semi-skilled, there is no spare capacity, and if the existing ones are doing overtime, they're going to be charging a lot, right? So we are just going to get those semi-skilled labor hours from the agency, which is charging $14, right? So that comes to 4,200, makes it to 5,400, right? So 12 and 42. 12 and 42, your answer is B. Clear? Exam questions are not that bad after all. On the of the $3 per factory overhead cost, 1.5 hours reflect to the electricity cost of running and cutting the machine. Okay. Which will be used to cut the fabric and wood for the sofas. The other 1.5 hours reflect the cost of the factory supervisor's salary. The supervisor is paid an annual salary and is paid at $15 per hour. For any overtime he works, he will need to work 20 hours overtime if this order is accepted. Right. Now here there is an incremental cost which is especially for this, which is 1.5 per hour, right? And how much electricity is required? Let's just quickly run through that. Factory overhead is 50 hours, and that is where your electricity is hiding, right? So the incremental cost because of this, we're going to add up here, which is 500 hours into 1.5, making it 750. And the overtime that is spent by the supervisor for 20 hours is $15, making it 300. So the total cost that is incurred here is 1050. Your answer is A. Two theory questions. Let's do them. So the question number 29 says, which statement currently describes the treatment of the general fixed overheads when preparing the quotation? The overhead should be excluded because they are sunk. The overhead should be excluded because they are not incremental. Overhead should be included because they're related to production. Overhead should be included because all expenses shown should be covered, right? So the answer is B, because they are not incremental. Any cost that is incremental will be taken. But if it is not incremental, if not incremental, then it's just a sunk cost, right? Let's go to the next one. Which of the following statements about relevant costing are true? An opportunity cost will always be a relevant cost, even if it is a past cost. Fixed costs are always general in nature and therefore never relevant. Committed costs are never considered to be relevant. An opportunity cost represents the cost of the best alternative foregone. Notional costs are always relevant. Avoidable cost would be saved. Common costs are only relevant if they are viable to the whole process, and differential cost in a make or buy decision are not considered to be relevant, right? So there are too many values or too many information that we have. Let's go one by one and figure out if they are right or wrong, right? So an opportunity cost will always be relevant if it is a past cost. Definitely not. Sunk cost does not take into picture. Fixed costs are always general in nature and therefore never relevant. That is also not true. They are not general. Fixed costs are specifically for your particular warehouse cost or rental cost, etc. Committed costs are never considered to be relevant cost. Yes, that is now correct. Yes. Opportunity cost represents the cost of the best alternative foregone. That is also correct. We know it. Notional cost are always relevant as they make the estimate more realistic. I'm not sure about that. You can just put a question mark. Avoidable cost would be saved if an activity did not happen and so are relevant. That is so true. Common costs are only relevant if the viability of the whole process is being assessed. No. Only if it is assessed, cost is cost. It will incur regardless, right? And well, I'm not sure about this actually. So maybe let's just put a question mark. Differential cost is a make or buy and not difference. That is definitely wrong. So I definitely know that 1, 2, and 8 I don't agree with. So wherever there is a 1, 2, or 8, I'm going to eliminate. And now I'm left with 2, which is 3, 4, 6, 7, and 3, 5, 4, 5, and 6. But I definitely know that 3 is correct. So I'm going to stick with my answer, which is C, right? So it's normal that we don't relate to all the trues and false. And here, if you see, there are 8 options given, right? So just figure out which you are very sure are true, figure out which you are very sure are untrue, and then try to come up to an answer, right? Here, like I was not sure, I was a little skeptical for point number 5 and point number 7, right? But at the same time, I was very sure about point number 3, 4, and 6, right? So that is how you figure out how to write your correct answer, especially in theory where most of the students struggle to write the correct answer. That brings us to the end of our section B also. What are we supposed to do now? Section C, question CARD. Let's see what they have got for us. So Carrot Company is an electronic company which makes 2 types of televisions. There is a plasma and there is a plasma screen TV and LCD. It operates within a highly competitive market and is constantly under pressure to reduce the prices. Okay, they have got the variances which they have already found out. Total number of units made and sold is 1400, which you find out from note number 1. The budgeted total sales volume for TV was 1180 units, consisting of an equal mix of plasma, TVs and LCDs. Actual sales volume is 550 and that of LCD is 650. So the budget was expected to be equal of both of them, totaling to 1180. That means The budget was, this was the total thing, 1180, and was divided into two products. So 590 of LCD and 590 of plasma. This is what their intention was, right? But they actually sold how much? They sold plasma 750, LCD 650. Okay. The prices have been given here, and the actual sales for November has also been mentioned. The contribution has also been mentioned. So, pretty good. A lot of information has been gathered. The next is a material price variance of 28,000 adverse and then a labor variance of 6050 adverse. Let's find out what's the problem. The sole reason for the variance was the increase in the purchase price of one of the key components, and each plasma TV made and each LCD TV made requires 1 unit of component X, for which Carrots company's standard cost is $60 per unit. Due to a shortage of components in the marketplace of the market price for November went up to 85 per unit. Carrot company actually paid 80 per unit for it. Each plasma TV uses 2 standard hours of labor and each LCD uses 1.5. The standard cost for labor is 14, and this also reflects the actual cost per labor hour for the company's permanent staff in November. However, because of the increase in sales and production volumes in November, the company also had to use additional temporary labor at a higher cost. That is where the labor has increased. The total capacity of Carrot's permanent workforce is 2,200 hours for the production per month. In the month of November, the permanent workforce were wholly efficient, taking exactly 2 hours to complete each plasma TV and exactly 1.5 hours to produce each LCD TV. The total labor variance is therefore solely responsible for the temporary staff that has been working with them. What are we supposed to do here? Calculate the following for the month. You need to find out the sales price variance, sales volume variance. You will know it. Comfortable, right? Sales price planning variance, material price operational variance, something that I have not done in my section C, but I'll show you how to do it. Labor rate, labor efficiency, and explain the reason why. Super. Let's do something that we are comfortable with and then start doing something which we are not comfortable with. It happens, yeah? Exam, right? That is what is expected out of you. Right. Something that we know, sales price and sales volume. Simple. Two products. So it's a mix. So I'm just going to say product, my, sorry, my plasma. Let me just take this off properly. So it's plasma, then it is LCD. Okay. And then we have actual price, we have standard price, we have difference, we have actual volume, and we have sales price variance. So actual price, standard price, we have the standard price, which is in the first para, 350 and 300. The actual price that the company sold in is somewhere in the second para, which is 330 and 290, right? So the difference here is going to be an adverse because obviously the selling price expected was more, and so for plasma and LCD, both the difference is more. The actual volume that you sold was 750 and 650, also from the first paragraph of notes. Multiply 20 with 750, 15,000 adverse, and 6,500 adverse, coming to a 21,500 adverse. Then comes your sales volume, right? Again, your plasma, so P and L. When in sales volume, it is going to be your actual volume, your budgeted volume, difference, your standard margin of price, and your variance, right? So, actual volume, how much did you sell? You sold 750 and 650. Your budgeted volume was 590 for each. That means under both the circumstances, you sold more than you were supposed to sell, right? So that is obviously going to be a favorable value of 160 and 60. Your standard margin is your contribution, which is also given in the question, directly 190 and 180. Your variance comes to 30400 favorable and 10800 favorable, bringing it to 41200 favorable, right? So what you have got a adverse price and a favorable volume. That is all about a simple one, which is your sales price. Let's go to the second one, which is pricing, planning variance, and operational variance, right? So this is something which you might find a little discomfort with, right? So here, if you note, we have to pick up every information from our note too. I'm just going to put it up here so you can see it. Right now, for planning variance, let me just put the formula because we have not gone through that in solving. So my planning variance formula is equal to target price minus market price into quantity, right? So my target price is given, which is, see, the standard cost is supposed to be 60, right? But you ended up paying 85, right? So what happens here is 60 minus 85. The quantity that is here is the total quantity sold, right? Which is from the table itself. Let's figure out. Yeah, total quantity sold is 1500. So I'm just going to pick up that value from here. Same multiplied by 1400. So my planning variance is obviously adverse. That comes to 35,000. Then comes my operational variance, which is my market price minus actual price, again into quantity, right? So your market price is 85, my actual price is 80 or the cost, and to 1400, quantity gives you a 7,000 favorable. You need to know the formulas for planning and operational. Things become easy when you know it. In fact, for anything, if you know the formulas, things become much easy. This is this is 50% a numerical subject, right? So normally what I recommend students to write all your formulas on a piece of paper and stick it somewhere where you can see very often. You will end up not by hearting them because you look at them very often. But this is something that I normally suggest for my students when when we start the program of ACCA, which is like almost 2 months before the actual exams. Obviously, now I don't think this trick is going to work for you. So, whatever strategy you're using for your September 2023 for remembering your formulas, you can go ahead with it. But from next time, this honestly works if you jot down all the even accounting standards, IFRS and everything. If you just jot them down and put them somewhere and you just look at them very often, like for example on my writing table, I keep on looking at that place often, or maybe sometimes TV. You look at it very often, right? Don't keep it digitally. Don't keep it on your laptop. Don't write them on a laptop. Don't write them on your mobile phones. That would not help you. You need to do it in a paper. A piece of paper is the key to knowing them. You can't do it on any digital platform, and you will not learn them. You do it on a hard copy and stick it somewhere where you often see, right? Sometimes, on a fridge or on the TV, or, like, as I said, your writing table, wherever you end up seeing very often, just stick it there for 2 months. I promise you will remember all your accounting standards and your formulas in your exam. They'll just come like this, right? So normally I use that, but for this program, obviously, this is like a chop program. We need to do it pretty quickly. So this strategy won't work. But for your next exam, you can use this trick. Wow. Okay, we are done. Let's go to the next one. Labor rate variance, labor efficiency variance. Do we know that? Yes, we do. Let's start doing it. All labor values you will get from your note number 3, right? So if you want to find out, I'm so sorry, labor rate variance is going to be your standard minus actual into actual hours, right? So how does this come? Total hours. How many total hours you require? You require 715 to 2 hours plus those 650 of the other product into 1.5. That comes to 2475, right? Now what next? You need to find how many permanent staff you have. So extra staff actually. Extra staff, how much you require? You already have 2200 and you need 2475. So you need 275 hours extra, which is going to be coming from your temporary staff, right? And this temporary staff took twice an extra time. Like, see, so 275 into 2 hours, that means 550 hours is what the temporary staff took. And then the rate variance, which is 14 minus 18, the rate into the 550 extra hours. So that makes it a 2200 adverse labor rate variance, right? When we talk about the efficiency, it is just going to be your, extra hours that is used. And how much extra hours were used? 275, because that is what was supposed to use, but the temporary staff used twice, right? So those extra hours of 275 into the cost per labor, which is 14, makes it 3850 adverse, which is your efficiency, right? So this is your rate, this is your efficiency, and both of them are adverse. Simple, this one was. Next is explain the reason why Carrot could be interested in material price planning. So here, what basically they're asking the advantages of material price planning variance and operational variance, right? So how do you start this question? You can just start with all the adverse material, which is already given in the examination, in the question, right? And then you can move forward to the advantages of planning and operational variance. You can talk about the measuring the purchasing department efficiency given the market condition, right? The market is something which is not favorable for this time period, right? Then we can also say that planning is used for feedback and focuses on how skilled the management is. So overall, we just talk about the adverse material and how it has impacted. Then we move on to the advantages and disadvantages or advantages of planning and operational variance for material, and that is how we will get this marks, right? Easy marks, something that is, not very difficult to achieve when we talk about the circumstances, and something that would be comfortable, because as many points as you write, you're going to get those many marks, right? One more thing, this question, let me just tell you how much this question's marks are. It'll just help us understand it. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah, so here the marks that are given. So the sales price variance calculation marks was 4. The material price is a simple one, 2. Labor efficiency was 5. And the remaining 9 marks is given to the theory, right? That means you need to write good points. You just can't get over it by writing anything. At the same time, you need to be reasonable in writing. You just can't write overboard and assume that it will give you a good passing. That would not happen. You need to be consistent in the amount of matter that you are writing. You can't just go overboard. You can't write less. But what you can do is write as much information that you have prima facie. Come back to that question again. If you have time in the end, come back to this question again and beautify the answer, right? Let's go to the next and the last one. Thatcher. Okay, so this is a theme park and it has been successful and traded profitably. About 3 years ago, the directors decided to capitalize on their success and reduce the expenditure made on the new thrill rides, reduced routine maintenance where possible, and made a commitment on regular increased admission price. Once an admission price is paid, customer can use any of the facility rides for free. These steps increase profit, and this is how their financials look. You need to find out the financial performance of TIP using the information given above from the profit and loss account. Let's see how many ratios we can figure out and the growth. During the year, during the early part of 2014, TIP employed a newly uh, qualified management accountant. He quickly became concerned about the potential performance of TIP, and to investigate his concerns, he started to gather data to measure some non financial measures of success. The data he has gathered is as shown below, that lost hours due to breakdown of slides has increased 3 times and more. Average waiting time per ride is also increased by 50%. Tip had 50 rides of different types, and it is open 360 days of the year at 10 hours each day. You need to assess the quality of the service which tip provides to its customer using the table 1, right? So let me just tell you what marks is allocated also for this one. It gives you an idea of how much you should write to it. So 14 and 6, okay. This is a 6 marks question, and the other one is a 14 mark question. That means I need to find a good number of ratios for this one, right? Now the question is, here only finding the ratio would not be enough. At the same time, we only have the profit and loss account, so we don't have a lot of data also. We will stick to what information we have, and we will find out the financial performance that the company is having, right? So what kind of ratio should we find here is the first question. As I said, there is a restriction in the amount. We will approach this question as a ratio calculation and analyzing it, right? So, what kind of ratios should we find out? Obviously, we can find out those simple sales growth ratios, right? So, how much has the sales grown year on year, right? Then the price of admissions year on year, because that is also increased in this question. Then we will deal with director's pay. All these ratios are found out on year basis, right? Uh, then we can look at the bonus, look at the wages, loss of customers, the profit that it is making, the return on assets, and lastly, the capacity, right? All these ratios we can find out. Obviously, you know what happens when you're actually getting a question, you might not strike on these kind of things. But think, so this is what the suggestion is, but always think as a question of what can be done for a financial performance, right? Now, if you notice what information we have, we can figure out what information we can figure out and use it, right? So normally students' instinct works in this manner that they will be finding the gross profit margin, the net profit margin, right? And then they would just zoom out. They would just forget what else to put. So if you are in a situation like that, you need to do a year-on-year ratio analysis, right? And try to figure out why that is an increase or decrease. So if you see here, let me just put it up here. See this company, they have got three directors and they are thinking of capitalizing. They've increased the price, and the increase in the price has not done any good or has not been justified. See, because the increase in price is there. But if you see, the number of breakdowns have gone pretty much. The waiting time is also gone pretty much. So this can be put up into your pointers of why that has happened, right? Once you calculate your year-on-year ratios, or you calculate your performance, your profitability ratios, that which is the bare minimum that you can find out, then you should go to your analyzation part, right? Where you can talk about the sales growth. You can talk about how there has to be an increase in maintenance and repair, but the company has not done that, right? Talk about the director's pay, which has been very exorbitant currently, obviously the wages and the profitability which comes in your net profits, right? So this is how you can talk about various things. The ratios that I showed you were like way too much. If you don't want to give so many ratios, is also fine, it's not a big deal, right? But find a good amount of ratios. Your limitations would only be until a return on asset or net profit and gross profit margin, right? But with three ratios you can't write such a big answer. So for that, you can do a year-on-year comparison and see how the company has progressed. In this situation, in this question, if you notice, I'll just show it to you. The company's maintenance amount has increased and the repairs have decreased. Company has, stopped investing a lot on the repairs. The the maintenance has decreased and the repairs have been increased. There is less repairs that they are doing, but at the same time they are increasing the salary, they are increasing the bonus, they are depreciating their assets less, if you notice this, right? So that is how they are trying to show that the bureaucrats of the company, the directors of the company, they are not paying attention to the maintenance and growth of tip, which is where the issue starts from, right? What else I wanted to show you is, yeah, the last answer for this question, which is how assess the quality of the service which tip provides. So in this one also, what you can write is you can talk about the breakdown which has increased more than three times and relate it to maintenance and repairs, right? That is the first thing. Second, waiting time is increased by 50%. Relate it to increase in price, right? What does this show? This shows that you can relate two features here. Now, it also talks about risk, right? So we can say that if it is if there are thriller rights are not maintained It's a health and safety risk which can lead to fines or even shutdown. Right? So just try to relate these things with the relatable situations. Right? 6 marks question, there is a lot you can write once you find out your percentage of the ratios. There is there is quite a lot of things that you can write here. This brings us to the end of this specimen. But if you notice one thing here, you must have noticed that your section C questions were pretty manageable, right? So, my personal suggestion would be to start from section C, or at least give a glance to section C before you start your question from wherever you want to start, right? Sometimes your section C is your scoring pace. Like here, if you see your both questions, question 31 and 32, they both are very good to write, good to achieve. So, which gives you like a plus point. So that you can use for your examination also. And this is how we have to approach a question. Obviously, what I have done today is I have not gone through actually solving all the questions with you, because once you know the method of doing it, you can obviously do it by yourself, right? So my idea is to assure that the method is sent over to you. Tomorrow we would be doing something very similar for our second mock, right? And that is how we will end up our tomorrow's class. Along with that, we will also be doing, so I'll be just jotting down some tips for you on how to approach the examination of performance management. I don't know if I've told you this earlier or not, but every exam has got its own way of dealing with, right? And performance management obviously has that too. So how to approach the question is also what, how to approach your exam is also what I want to, speak about tomorrow. Apart from doing one more mock, ideally it should be like something which is your section C of your past papers, which has got two questions. Let's see when we do it tomorrow, right? Thank you so much for going through it, and I hope you guys are studying well. And all the best for your exams. Keep studying, keep practicing more. The more you do it, the more you will achieve. Right? All the best. Bye bye.